Right. Well, good morning, everyone. Jumping on here again for a quick video. Today, we are covering another frequently asked question for you. And that question is, what if you pass away without a will? And again, my name is Todd Jarvis. I'm a family, estate, and business advisor and attorney. And we're here for another episode of Your Legacy Live. Let's go ahead and get started. So, what if you do pass away without a will? So that's kind of what we're talking about today, right? We're talking about what happens if you die and you don't have a will in place. So if you don't have a will in place, the state laws are going to fill in the gaps for you. Okay, so state law, it's going to dictate who gets what. If you haven't clarified for yourself in a will who your heirs and beneficiaries are. Now, state law, it tends to follow kind of what you would expect. The surviving spouse is going to be a primary beneficiary and heir. And then if there's no surviving spouse, then your children after that. If there's no spouse or children living, then it goes up to your parents, who's going to receive your estate. And then ultimately, if your parents have passed away before you, you're going to see it trickle down to siblings, nieces, nephews. Basically, it's going to follow that family tree until there's someone available to receive your estate. Okay. But, this gets really tricky when we have a blended family, or either you or your surviving spouse have children from a different relationship, right? Because then the numbers, it's going to get a little tricky, and they don't just take your assets and divide it all equally amongst everybody, right? In that case. So even though each state has its own laws, and it does try to fill in the gaps to make sure that the people who are close to you receive your estate, it might be different from what you want. You're going to know the relationships. You're going to know the dynamics of your family and who needs the support after you pass away. Or, maybe in your mind, who's deserving of it, right? So another thing that the state laws don't do is it doesn't clarify who's in charge of those assets if they're left to a minor. If you have children who are still under 18, who's going to take care of that money for them until they turn 18, right? Judge is going to have to decide. So state law is really just following this family tree, but really doesn't do a whole lot more than that to make sure that those who receive your estate receive it in a way that you would want it. What I mean by that is, like, maybe you'd want them to not just have control and decide who gets your assets when you pass away, but when they get them and how they get them, right? Depending on their financial maturity and their position in life, or the time in their life, right? 18-year-old, maybe not the best time to dump a couple $100,000 on someone, right? So you can kind of choose those things in a will. If you create, well, not in a will, but in other planning techniques. If you have an estate plan in place, if you've taken control and decided you're not going to rely on the state's plan, that you're going to create your own plan, then you can control those things. Okay, so when you die without a will, state law fills in the gaps. And then even then, it's really important to make sure that your plan's played out, because in writing, you want to make sure to state that you don't want to have the state's laws deciding for you who gets your assets, who's in charge of distributing those assets, and when your loved ones get those assets. So if you die without a will, you're leaving all of your decisions in the hands of the state, who might not have the best interest of your family in mind. Okay, so take control. Go ahead and reach out to me if you have questions. Put questions and comments here, and I'll answer them. Reach out to me, DM me, call me, and we can talk about what this means for your own family dynamics and your own financial situation. Okay, there's a lot to consider, and there's a lot of control you can take and over the decisions and the outcomes for your family in these difficult situations. So take control, be in control of your own life, be in control of your family's destiny, and put a plan in place. Until next time, it's Todd Jarvis, and it's been great.